Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Have you ever imagined pledging yourself in front of an intergalactic council, bound for life to an alien princess with glowing red skin? Today's thrilling sci-fi story ends with an epic battle where sabotage threatens to destroy a sacred empathic bond ceremony between a human and an alien princess. Will they survive this ruthless attempt to tear them apart? Or will it cost humanity its place among the stars? Make sure you listen to the whole story to uncover the breathtaking ending. If you love this content, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more extraordinary adventures. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you're listening from and what you think of today's cosmic romance. Blood splattered across the pristine marble floor of the Grand Hall, and the entire Galactic Council froze. The newly arrived intruder, a human, held a smoking energy pistol in one hand, his chest rising and falling with furious intensity. Council guards rushed in from every entrance, weapons aimed and blinking with readiness. High Magistrate Karth slammed his ornate staff once on the dais, the metallic echo resounding like a thunderclap. Everyone halted, yet the tension only thickened. Whispers hissed through the air like venomous serpents, each delegate craning forward to glimpse the unpredictable primitive who had dared breach their hallowed chamber. Among them stood Princess Athela, the red-skinned heir to the ancient Mezeran throne, her blazing ruby eyes locked on the human's face. In that charged moment, no one cared that the newly spilled blood was that of a petty thief, not any official of rank. All eyes focused on the human, who slowly raised both hands in surrender. He coughed, eyes darting around, then let the pistol drop to the floor. A single ring of smoke wafted from the barrel. "I'm sorry," he managed, voice cracking with adrenaline, "but I swear this was self-defense. The man tried to knife me." His accent was unmistakably Terran, dry, clipped consonants shaped by 1,000 years of Earth's disparate influences. Only moments earlier, the Council had debated whether Earth should be allowed formal membership into the Grand Galactic Assembly. Now, they had living proof of the species' notorious unpredictability. Some delegates looked scandalized, others merely smug. High Magistrate Karth's 3 elongated fingers tightened around his staff, the top of which displayed the shifting glyphs of his ancient order. For centuries, he had presided over interplanetary disputes, seen conflicts resolved, empires fall, and alliances formed. But a human brandishing a weapon here in the hall? This was unprecedented. Hidden behind a row of slender columns, Princess Athela watched intently. Her scarlet cheeks flushed deeper, a sign of the intense emotions that rattled through her empathic senses. For a Mezeran, emotions were not just vibes, but near-tangible waves. She picked up on the human's fear, his confusion, yet also a steely resolve that surprised her. If Earth was truly so brutal, why was she detecting sincerity? "Enough!" boomed High Magistrate Karth, his deep voice reverberating through the suspended crystalline chandeliers. Delegates from the 15 allied systems, the Uval Precinct, the Mechanized Empire, and other corners of the galaxy hushed. The single word cut through the babble, resonating with centuries of authoritative weight behind it. A retinue of robed officials hurried onto the dais to stand beside him, each wearing insignias of their respective star systems. "Return to your seats," Karth commanded. "Guards, secure that pistol." 2 guards in shimmering armor rushed to the center of the hall, retrieving the still warm pistol. The human offered no resistance, though he bristled at their rough grip on his arms. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing dusty boots and a jacket with a small Earth emblem sewn onto the sleeve. Dried sweat matted his dark hair to his forehead. Meanwhile, a soft whoosh of cloth heralded Princess Athela stepping forward. Most delegates parted before her, hesitant to obstruct Mezeran royalty. Her skin glowed in crimson radiance, and intricate black tattoos spiraled around her wrists, markings of her noble line. She approached the dais, ignoring the stares, her eyes never leaving the human. "Magistrate," she spoke gently, but with the certainty of one who wields true power. "We shouldn't condemn him yet. Let him speak. Let him explain." A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. Princess Athela was known for her empathetic gifts, but rarely did she intervene so directly. Famed for bridging warring factions on her home planet, she possessed a near-supernatural ability to sense and calm volatile emotions. Now she stood mere steps from this Terran who had just spilled blood upon the council's sacred ground. Karth's staff glowed faintly with glyphs reacting to his shifting thoughts.
He shall speak,
But I caution you, She inclined her head. Yes, I'm aware of the danger. Turning to the human, she placed a hand over her heart in a Messerin gesture of respect. Tell us your name. The man cleared his throat. I'm Ethan Cole, envoy from Earth, assigned to petition for our admission to the council. He paused, glancing at the smear on the floor. But I never meant for this. Princess Athela felt his sincerity reverberate through her empathic senses. Amid the swirling distrust of the room, one thing became clear. Ethan Cole's terror was genuine, but so was his determination. Athela turned to Karth. High Magistrate, let me conduct an empathic reading. Head snapped in her direction. An empathic reading was a significant intrusion, typically requiring mutual consent and reserved for critical negotiations or dire emergencies. The entire council watched with rapt interest. If the princess gleaned some hidden truth in Ethan's emotions, it could shift everything. But Karth's third eye, located at the center of his forehead, slid open in that eerie, unblinking stare his species used for heightened awareness. By the laws of the assembly, the subject must willingly submit, he said, voice echoing. Human, do you allow the princess to read your emotional current? Ethan swallowed, glancing at the platform. That means you'll be in my head? Not your thoughts, Athela clarified. Only your emotions. It's how I verify the truth behind your actions. If you're lying, I'll sense it as chaos. If you're sincere, I'll feel your authenticity. A hush descended, then Ethan gave a nod, squaring his shoulders. Go ahead. I have nothing to hide. Athela raised both hands, palms outward, and stepped closer until she was mere inches from Ethan's chest. Her crimson fingers trembled slightly. This was a public demonstration of vulnerability, as opening herself to another's emotional flow could backfire if the subject harbored intense malice. She took a slow breath, letting her innate gifts unfold. A warm ripple of energy passed between them. Ethan stiffened, as if an electric charge had run down his spine. Athela felt the swirling mix of guilt, shock, and raw nerves in him. She reached deeper, searching for the core of the man's emotional truth. Scenes fluttered in her mind. Earth's war-torn history, personal regrets, a fierce desire to prove humanity's worth, and most pressingly, the horror at having been forced to shoot in self-defense. She exhaled sharply, pulling back from the empathic bond. Her body buzzed with after effects. It was intense, but in that swirling maelstrom of fear and remorse, there was no sign of duplicity. She turned to face the council. He's telling the truth, she announced, voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. He meant no harm, only to protect himself. By the time her words sunk in, half the chamber erupted in heated murmurs. Some delegates looked relieved, others doubtful, but the tension swirling around Ethan Cole had subtly shifted. High Magistrate Karth rapped his staff twice, calling for order. Very well, he said slowly. If he is truthful, then this unfortunate incident will not bar Earth's petition outright. However, he cast a wary eye at Ethan. The Council remains unconvinced of humanity's readiness. Reports of Terran aggression are legion. We cannot ignore them. A demonstration of peaceful coexistence may be required. Several delegates perked up. One with a shimmering carapace, a representative of the mechanized empire, flexed its metallic arms. Agreed, it rasped. We cannot blindly allow savagery into our fold. Let him prove otherwise. Princess Athela's gaze flicked to Karth. What do you propose? Karth spread his long fingers, letting the staff's glyphs spark with golden light. An ancient rite. The Mesrin have a bond ceremony that fosters mutual understanding. If the human is truly here in peace, let him undergo the formal exchange of resonance with... He trailed off, and the chamber followed his gaze, which landed directly on Princess Athela. A collective gasp rippled through the delegates. The exchange of resonance was no simple handshake. It was a near-permanent, empathic link typically reserved for forging unbreakable alliances, akin to a sacred vow. Athela froze, mind racing. The bond ceremony would tie her empathic essence to Ethan's, forever. She'd experience his emotional states across any distance, and he would likewise feel hers, though humans might only catch faint impressions. She'd never done such an exchange outside her species, and if rumor spread that she intimately linked with a Terran, Ethan blinked in confusion. What do you mean, a bond? Karth lifted his chin. The Mezerin ritual. You wish to prove Earth's sincerity? Then do so by forging the unshakable empathic connection with a royal Mezerin. A hush saturated the hall, as if the air itself turned to stone. The princess's red cheeks burned hot. Part of her wanted to protest, but she cleared her throat. Let me speak with him privately, she said finally. It's a monumental decision. The council must allow me that much. Karth exchanged glances with his advisors and nodded once. You have until tomorrow's session, princess. Then we expect your decision. And be warned, refusal may be taken as proof that humans are too unstable to join our union. Where are you reading from, friends? Comment 1 if you agree to the bond, or 2 if you'd be too scared. Let me know. Athela's private garden, a lush, domed arboretum, offered a respite from the council's public scrutiny. Here, exotic foliage from 100 star systems flourished in carefully balanced humidity. Bright azure blossoms from the distant Taraxis fields brushed against creeping vines from the Mezerin highlands. The glass overhead was tinted to mimic her homeworld's red sky, bathing the garden in a rosy glow. Ethan stood beside her, glancing around at the vividly colored leaves and hovering pollinators that glistened under artificial sunlight. He seemed uneasy, shifting from one foot to the other, still processing the abrupt shift from scorned criminal to potential ceremonial partner. So, he finally murmured, what exactly is this ceremony? Athela circled a gnarled trunk and came to rest on a carved stone bench. Gesturing for him to sit beside her, she inhaled the sweet scent of the garden's roses. The exchange of resonance is an ancient practice, she began, designed to ensure two parties genuinely share each other's intentions. For Mezerin like me, especially one of royal lineage, it's binding. We open our empathic channels wide and link with our partner's emotional core. Once done, it can't be undone. Ever. Ethan absorbed that, eyes widening. So I'd be inside your feelings for the rest of my life? She let out a soft chuckle. You'd sense them, yes. Humans aren't known to be as receptive, but you'd get glimpses, emotional echoes. For me, though, it's much more. I'd constantly feel your surges of anger, fear, joy. It's intense, but also how the Mezerin have forged strong alliances in times of crisis. He grimaced. That's a lot to ask of anyone, let alone with a stranger. What if I say no? Athela turned serious. Then Earth's petition will likely fail. The council sees you as a dangerous wild card. They'll vote to exclude you, and if they exclude you, the more aggressive factions might see that as a green light to annex or exploit Earth's resources. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. No pressure, he said wryly. I came to make sure Earth had a fair chance, but I never imagined marriage. It's not a marriage, she corrected gently, though it's similar in significance for my people. He exhaled, caught between duty and personal fear, while Athela felt genuine empathy stirring within her. She sensed his protective drive for humanity, and more surprising, a flicker of admiration for her. A short while later, they returned to the council's grand vestibule, both resolved, yet weighed down by the magnitude of what lay ahead. Athela's personal attendants fluttered around her, fussing with protocols and offering last-minute counsel. Ethan, for his part, found himself cornered by an Earth liaison officer, an older woman wearing the insignia of Earth's fledgling diplomatic corps. We believe in you, the liaison whispered urgently. But remember that if you proceed with the bond, Earth will be forever tied to the Mezerin. Political ramifications are immense. He nodded stiffly, well aware of the swirling complexities. The council had proven precarious enough without an interspecies empathic union. Everywhere he looked, alien delegates eyed him warily. The rumor mill churned with speculation. Would the human truly go through with it? Could the Mezerin princess handle the chaotic swirl of Terran emotions? High Magistrate Carr soon summoned them back into the main chamber. Hundreds of representatives watched from tiered balconies, their collective gaze scorching. Ethereal music, tonal vibrations from the Rainian choir echoed through the halls, announcing the formal session. Delegates who had previously ridiculed Earth now wore curious expressions. Karth wasted no time. Princess Athela, Envoy Cole, he began, staff sizzling with prismatic light. Have you reached a decision? Athela glanced at Ethan, her red features calm yet resolute. She didn't need words. He felt her silent encouragement. Summoning a breath, he declared, "We'll do it. We accept the exchange of resonance." The chamber exploded into murmurs. Some delegates hissed or chittered in their native tongues. Others nodded approval. Karth struck his staff to regain order. Then preparations shall commence immediately. The ceremony will be held at dawn tomorrow in the Celestial Rotunda. All council members are required to attend, to witness this historic event. A flicker of discontent crossed several faces, especially the massive figure of Ambassador Thrask, who represented the Rain Collective, a power block known to have friction with Earth's aspirations. His scaled brow ridges and formidable posture radiated skepticism, but he said nothing. Not yet. Athela and Ethan exited the chamber together, hearts pounding in unison with the monumental vow they had just made. Another day, another challenge that could redefine the fate of two worlds. The Celestial Rotunda was a sacred space at the heart of the council station, a grand dome of crystalline panels that refracted starlight into dancing rainbows. At the center stood an ornate dais embedded with alien script, so old that many believed it predated any known civilization. It was here that the exchange of resonance would occur. As midnight approached, Athela slipped into the rotunda alone, hoping to find solace in the place where the biggest step of her life would soon unfold. She let her fingertips brush the swirling symbols underfoot, feeling their faint hum of energy. In quiet moments like this, the entire station seemed to hold its breath, anticipating. Her mind drifted to Ethan. She had glimpsed his raw determination, his wellspring of guilt for Earth's violent legacy, and also a genuine hope for unity. Despite the swirling negativity from certain council members, a part of her believed in him, believed in the potential of the bond they were about to share. Yet she still wrestled with fear. She had never performed the exchange with an off-worlder, let alone a human whose emotional peaks often soared higher and crashed lower than Mezeran norms. Could she handle the torrent? Soft footsteps echoed behind her. Turning, she found Ambassador Thrask approaching with measured steps. Tall reptilian features glimmered under the starry mosaic of the dome. He wore a formal cloak that matched his ochre scales. "Princess Athela," Thrask greeted with a deep, sibilant hiss. "Pardon my intrusion. I sought clarity on tomorrow's spectacle." She clasped her hands, adopting a neutral expression. "Spectacle? I see it as a solemn ceremony." His gaze flicked across the ancient glyphs. "Words, formalities, the exchange of resonance is a powerful bond, yes? Enough to tip certain power balances?" Athela narrowed her eyes. "That is not why we do this. We aim to prove Earth's sincerity. Nothing more." Thrask's reptilian lips twisted in a near smile. "Of course. But be warned, forging such a link with a species known for aggression could be risky. One empathic misstep, and who knows how that emotional chaos might backlash onto you." She tensed. Was that concern in his voice, or a thinly veiled threat? Before she could respond, Thrask offered a perfunctory bow. "Farewell, Princess. I wish you success, or at least survival." Then he vanished into the rotunda's dim corridors, leaving her with a chill in her veins. Elsewhere in the station's labyrinth of corridors, Ethan paced his cramped temporary quarters. A single window revealed a vast star field, punctuated by the swirl of a distant nebula. Normally the sight would fill him with awe, but tonight it only underscored his cosmic isolation. A small hollow pad on the desk chirped, and the face of the Earth liaison officer reappeared. "Ethan," she said gravely, "we just received intel that some factions might try to sabotage tomorrow's ceremony. Ambassador Thrask and his supporters stand to lose lucrative resource claims if Earth gains formal acceptance." He ran a hand through his hair. "Threats, sabotage, why am I not surprised? Don't underestimate them," she warned. "They could incite violence, or worse, attempt to undermine the empathic exchange itself. If that bond fails, Earth's membership fails with it." He stared out at the stars, a knot tightening in his chest. This mission had always carried diplomatic landmines, but the stakes were now colossal. Not just a random council seat, but the forging of a lifelong empathic union with an alien princess. "Thank you," he said softly. "I'll be cautious." After disconnecting, Ethan sank onto his bunk, exhaling shakily. He thought of the princess, her mesmerizing red skin, the empathy that seemed to radiate from her very presence, and the trust she was placing in him despite every reason not to. If he let her down, or worse, inadvertently caused her harm, he'd never forgive himself. Lying back, he let exhaustion overtake him. Sleep came fitfully, dreams swirling with half-formed images of the upcoming ceremony. In one vision, the celestial rotunda collapsed under a hail of laser fire. In another, he stood at the dais with Athela, only to watch his reflection transform into some monstrous creature that roared and severed the connection. He jerked awake in a cold sweat, heart pounding. Realizing dawn was only hours away, he forced himself to take slow, calming breaths. Fear might be natural, but he couldn't let it rule him. Not now. Tomorrow's ceremony demanded every ounce of courage he could muster for the sake of Earth and for Athela, who had chosen to stand beside him. Dawn on the council station arrived in a stylized display. Artificial lighting panels shifted to simulate the rising of a golden sun, accompanied by the chiming of hidden bells to alert all residents. Ethan dressed in the ceremonial tunic given to him, a finely woven cloth embroidered with runic patterns reminiscent of Messeran art. Then he made his way through hushed corridors thronged with curious staff, each dipping their head or whispering rumors as he passed. Reaching the celestial rotunda's entrance, he paused. Guards in polished breastplates flanked the doorway, halberds pulsing with protective energy. Even more noticeable were the throngs of delegates inside. Insectoid diplomats with multi-lensed eyes, amphibious representatives whose skin glistened with moisture, plus humanoids with varied features of horns, scales, or multi-hued hair. Over it all, High Magistrate Karth presided from a high podium, staff raised in command. At the heart of the rotunda, the dais shimmered. Princess Athela stood upon it, resplendent in a form-fitting crimson gown that harmonized with her skin tone. Golden filaments adorned her arms and collar, accentuating the swirling, black tattoos. She glanced up as he entered, her expression a mixture of solemn resolve and reassuring warmth. Karth struck his staff. Envoy Ethan Cole of Earth, Princess Athela of Meser stepped forth, and stepping into the ring of starlight that funneled through the apex of the dome, Ethan felt a hush envelop them. This was it, the moment that would seal Earth's future in the Council and lock him into an empathic bond for life. Karth began chanting in an archaic dialect, the words thrumming in the air like a living presence. Delegates from countless worlds watched. Ambassador Thrask loomed at the periphery, flanked by supporters with stony faces. Then Karth's chanting ended abruptly. He lifted a glowing orb from the dais' center and held it between Ethan and Athela. Place your hands upon the orb of accord and open your hearts. Athela gazed into Ethan's eyes. Are you ready? She whispered. He nodded, pulse drumming in his ears. Their hands touched the orb simultaneously, and a shock of ethereal energy rippled across their arms. An audible gasp spread through the audience. The orb of accord blazed with a brilliant flash, forming a column of shimmering light around Ethan and Athela. He felt an almost gravitational pull, as if something were drawing out the essence of his emotions. In unison, Athela's empathic aura flared like scarlet flames dancing around her figure. Time seemed to slow. Ethan's heartbeat pounded in his ears, and he forced himself to keep his hand pressed against the orb. Athela's voice sounded inside his mind. Not words, but pulses of shared feeling. It was as if each of them was stepping into a pool of the other's psyche. He felt her empathy, her regal composure, her lingering anxieties about the future. Simultaneously, she experienced his determination, his regrets, his cautious hope. Then came the final phase of the exchange. A wave of searing energy soared through them both, forging the link. The connection latched onto the deepest parts of their emotional centers, bridging them in a way that not even the advanced telepaths of the galaxy could mimic. A tremor rattled the dais, momentarily dimming the orb's brilliance. Startled, Ethan glanced around. That's when he noticed Ambassador Thrask standing near the dais with a hidden device in his clawed hand. Sparks flickered along its length, some form of disruptor. In a split second, Thrask pressed a button, releasing an electromagnetic pulse that pulsed outward. The shimmering light around Ethan and Athela wavered, crackling with instability. Athela let out a strangled cry, hands flying to her temples. Ethan gritted his teeth as a burst of chaotic emotion flooded their nascent bond. Their link was under assault, forcibly destabilized by the disruptor's interference. Council guards rushed to apprehend Thrask, but an entire squad of Ren Collective soldiers stepped in, brandishing weapons. Panic rippled through the assembled delegates as the disruptor's pulse repeated, fracturing the empathic field that Ethan and Athela shared. Ethan felt Athela's agony echoed in his own mind, a lancing pain that nearly buckled his knees. If this bond broke mid-formation, it could destroy her empathic core and might even kill them both. Fighting the waves of disorientation, he lunged forward and seized the device from Thrask's clawed hand. The ambassador hissed, but Ethan wrenched it free, smashing it on the dais. Sparks erupted, and the disruptor died. Could you sense the tension there? Comment 1. If you think Ethan did the right thing, or 2 if he should have waited for the guards. At that moment, the orb of accord stabilized, flaring with renewed brilliance. The empathic torrent surged back into place, flooding Ethan's mind with the entirety of Athela's consciousness. 1,000 images, emotions, and impressions spiraled through him. The regal corridors of the Mezerin Palace from her childhood, her heartbreaks and triumphs, the solitary nights spent grappling with the weight of responsibility. In turn, she received the torrent of his life, glimpses of a rough and tumble youth in Earth's outback settlements, familial love tinged with regret, the budding pride he took in representing humanity before the council. The wave of shared feeling was overwhelming and exhilarating, forging a bond deeper than any vow. When the radiance receded and they found themselves still gripping the orb, neither could deny. The exchange was complete. Athela's breath shuddered as she looked at Ethan with tear-filled eyes. She recognized his essence now, as clearly as she recognized her own reflection. He gazed back at her, panting from the ordeal, realizing that he felt her presence within him, a steady warmth that glowed just behind his ribcage. High Magistrate Karth, barely recovering from the shock of Thrask's sabotage attempt, cleared his throat. "The bond is formed," he announced, voice trembling with awe. The entire chamber had gone silent, save for scattered moans from the scuffle between Ren soldiers and council guards. Ambassador Thrask lay pinned on the floor, snarling in defeat, but his earlier smirk had vanished into cold fury. Delegates stared in a mixture of terror and wonder. None had witnessed such a violent interruption to an exchange, and none had seen one so strong as to withstand sabotage. Princess Athela spoke first. "It is done," she said softly, her fingers still interwoven with Ethan's. "We are bound." Then she turned an accusatory glare on Thrask. "Your sabotage could have killed us. Have you no honor?" Thrask spat blood onto the polished floor, refusing to answer. But the tension in the chamber was already shifting. Many delegates turned from wary to subvert to open disgust at Thrask's underhanded ploy. Karth, regaining composure, raised his staff. "Let all see, Earth and Mezer are united. The Council shall decide the consequences for those who tried to destroy this union." As soon as the ceremony concluded, medics rushed in to examine Ethan and Athela. Though both felt dizzy from the empathic overload, physically they were unhurt, an astonishing stroke of fortune given the disruptor's malicious intent. Meanwhile, council guards dragged the still-resisting Thrask and his cronies from the rotunda, preparing for a tribunal. "We'll convene tomorrow to finalize Earth's acceptance," Karth said, gently guiding Ethan and Athela off the dais. "But rest assured, this sabotage attempt only solidifies your petition in the eyes of many. Your bond's resilience is proof enough that Earth's sincerity is genuine." Athela leaned against Ethan for balance as they made their way into a corridor. He could sense her lingering pain like a dull ache beneath his own ribs, a taste of how closely linked they now were. Strangely, the knowledge that he could feel her burdens drew them closer. Eventually, they found privacy in a small antechamber. Moonlight from a massive observation window spilled across the floor, revealing the twirl of a nearby galaxy's spiral arms. Athela steadied herself, pressing a palm to her temple. "I can still feel the aftershocks of that disruptor," she murmured. Ethan winced, feeling a phantom echo. "Me too. Or maybe I'm just feeling yours." Their eyes locked, a hush passed between them, not one of awkwardness, but of profound depth. A fleeting sense of gratitude welled in Athela, saturating the bond with a warm glow. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. "If you hadn't destroyed Thrask's device when you did, we might have—" She couldn't bring herself to say it. There were rumored horror stories of broken empathic ceremonies that ended in madness or worse. Ethan's hand found hers. He gave a reassuring squeeze. "We made it through. That's all that matters." Though physically drained, they realized a surprising closeness. The bond was more than a legal formality now. It was a living, breathing connection that pulsed with each shared moment, thriving even in adversity. With that realization came a silent vow to protect each other and, by extension, to protect both their peoples. The next day arrived with a subdued hush. The council had called an emergency assembly to address the sabotage attempt and to formally vote on Earth's membership. The station's quarters buzzed with tension as rumors of Thrask's behind-the-scenes deals for resource access circled. Some claimed he'd planned to set up a mining monopoly near Earth's solar system, effectively strangling human economic growth. Within the council's main hall, delegates filled every seat, chattering in dozens of languages. High Magistrate Karth took his place at the central podium, eyes solemn. Princess Athela and Ethan, still feeling the bond's subtle presence, sat together on a raised platform to the side, flanked by Mezeran royal guards and Earth's liaison team. A hush fell as Karth struck his staff. Ambassador Thrask stands accused of attempted murder and sabotage of an official council ceremony. Under council law, we must hear statements from the victims and witnesses. Thrask, bound in electronic restraints, was brought forth. Scornful mutters floated through the chamber. The reptilian ambassador's slit pupils darted nervously. He attempted to posture, but the wave of condemnation was palpable. Testimonies followed. Athela recounted the bond ceremony's near-fatal disruption. Ethan described how the device threatened to break the empathic link. A council forensics expert confirmed that the disruptor was modulated to jam empathic frequencies. The mechanized empire's representative stated that the device posed a lethal risk if used during such a critical ritual. Thrask attempted to protest, claiming fear of human treachery, but the evidence was damning. A final damning blow came when a hollow recording surfaced. Private communications with corporate interests that stood to profit if Earth was excluded. The delegates erupted in outrage, many calling for immediate expulsion of Thrask's entire faction. Karth allowed the outcry to simmer, then lifted his staff to restore order. "Members of the council, we shall convene a final vote on Earth's petition. Let us also decide on punishment for those who nearly murdered the Mezeran heir and the Terran envoy in our very hall." Ethan reached over and grasped Athela's hand. He felt her surge of confidence at the crowd's condemnation of Thrask. The tides had definitively turned, and Earth's acceptance looked more certain than ever. Delegates lined up to offer their votes, either publicly endorsing or opposing Earth's membership. One after another, they stepped forward to drop small glowing tokens into a levitating crystal cylinder, each token color-coded for accept or reject. The entire assembly watched as each symbol of approval or denial disappeared into swirling light. Days ago, Earth would have struggled to secure even half. Now, in the aftermath of the sabotage, sympathy and respect had soared. Even factions once skeptical of humanity's violent strike had witnessed Ethan's selfless act under the worst possible conditions. The bond with Athela and the savage attempt to break it had proven that humanity was capable of resilience and sacrifice. When the final token glowed within the cylinder, Karth activated a mechanism that tallied and projected the results onto a large holographic display. The hush in the hall was absolute, delegates barely daring to exhale. Then the numbers appeared. Over 2/3 had voted accept. Earth's membership was sealed by a comfortable margin, surpassing the threshold required under council law. A thunder of applause, cheers, and relieved sighs filled the chamber. Athela felt a burst of euphoria from Ethan, which mirrored her own. She squeezed his hand, and across their empathic bond came a gentle reassurance. They had succeeded. Thrask and his conspirators were promptly stripped of rank, pending further sentencing. Karth turned to Ethan and Athela, projecting his voice. "Envoy Cole, Princess Athela, by the will of the Council, Earth is hereby recognized as a fully integrated member. May your newly forged bond be a symbol of unity rather than conquest." In the stands, the Earth liaison officer wept openly, hugging colleagues. Athela's attendants covered their hearts with trembling hands, relief evident in their red-hued faces. The solemn hush gave way to exultant conversation as delegates from a dozen worlds hurried forward to exchange greetings, handshakes, and well wishes with the improbable pair at the center of it all. Ethan took a moment to breathe, letting the swirl of relief wash over him. The hardest part seemed over. Earth had its seat, but he was only starting to realize the far-reaching implications of the empathic bond that now tied his fate to Princess Athela's forever. Evening celebrations erupted throughout the station. Holographic fireworks sparkled in the upper promenades, and corridors became jammed with revelers. Various cultural enclaves hosted dances, feasts, and musical exhibitions. Mezeran flutists played haunting melodies, while Terran guitar riffs merged in an experimental jam session. Drinks were poured, toasts offered, and at least half a dozen newly minted alliances were rumored to have been brokered under the jubilant haze. Athela and Ethan soon found themselves in a reception hall, ringed by curious delegates wanting to meet the empathic couple who had braved sabotage. Ethan was polite but increasingly overwhelmed by the swirl of new emotions, occasionally forgetting that some of the chaos he felt originated from Athela's empathic impressions. Meanwhile, Athela gracefully navigated the crowd with the poise of a stateswoman. Eventually, they stole a quiet moment on a high terrace that jutted into the stars. Overhead, a translucent dome revealed the cosmos in every direction. It was eerily silent this far from the party. Athela leaned against the railing, gazing into the black void dotted with distant suns. Ethan joined her, feeling the night's mild chill through his ceremonial tunic. "I sense your tension," she said gently, turning her red face toward him. "It's swirling inside you and also inside me. Are you all right?" He rubbed his eyes. "It's just a lot. My entire planet's fate hinged on that vote. We won, but now I'm part of an empathic union I can barely comprehend. How can I be sure I won't harm you?" She offered a soft, knowing smile, touching his hand. A subtle warmth flickered through their bond at the contact. "That fear is normal, but if anything, your concern for my well-being is proof enough you won't harm me. We'll navigate this together, Ethan. The bond makes us partners in everything." He turned, brushing a stray lock of her dark hair away from her eyes. She was stunning, he realized, not just physically, but in her unwavering faith in empathy's power. The fear he carried eased somewhat. Through the bond, he sensed her calm acceptance, and it steadied him like an anchor. "How's the story so far?" Comment if you love seeing these two come together, or two if you want more drama. Days turned into weeks. The Council ratified Earth's inclusion, finalizing diplomatic channels, trade agreements, and technological exchanges. Meanwhile, Ethan and Athela began the delicate dance of truly understanding each other's cultures. One of the first steps was a formal invitation for Earth's representatives to visit Mezer, the red-skied world of towering spires and ancient empathic traditions. Before leaving, Karth summoned them for one last official briefing. In a small chamber lined with star charts, he sat behind a sleek control console. "We've quarantined Thrask and his conspirators," he informed them, "and are unraveling the network of sabotage attempts he financed. It may take time to root them all out." "Be cautious," Ethan nodded. "Understood." Athela folded her hands. "We'll remain vigilant, but we can't let fear halt our progress, Magistrate." Karth's elongated features registered approval. "True enough, Princess. The galaxy needs this sign of unity. Mezer and Earth, forging a deeper alliance." Soon after they boarded a Mezeran cruiser. The jump to hyperspace was smooth, and within mere hours, the swirling cosmic colors parted to reveal Athela's home system. Two suns glowed in twin brilliance, illuminating the desert plains and luminous cities of Mezer. Descending through the atmosphere, Ethan pressed his face against the viewport, marveling at the crimson hue that bathed everything below. Their craft landed on a palatial platform carved from black basalt. Royal guards in formal attire stood in disciplined rows. Athela stepped onto her native soil, exhaling in relief. She turned to Ethan with a wry smile. "Welcome to my world." The capital city's architecture soared in spires and arches, each structure featuring swirling motifs reminiscent of the empathic patterns that define Mezeran art. Red banners snapped in the breeze, announcing the princess's return, and throngs of citizens crowded behind barrier lines, hoping to glimpse the legendary human who had bonded with their future queen. Ethan felt a surge of awe and a hint of apprehension. Through the bond, Athela picked up on his swirl of emotions and radiated calm encouragement back at him. Together, they walked past hushed crowds and into the heart of a culture that might soon be as much his as hers. That evening, a grand reception welcomed them. Mezeran nobility filled a vast banquet hall illuminated by floating orbs of bioluminescence. Tables brimmed with delicacies, sizzling fruit from volcanic slopes, spiced grains that shimmered under the light, and sweet wines that teased the senses. Musicians played a hypnotic melody on stringed instruments older than Earth's recorded history. Athela's father, the Mezeran king, sat atop a raised dais carved from obsidian. Though advanced in years, his regal posture and piercing gaze commanded respect. Athela introduced Ethan, who performed a Mezeran gesture of deference, hand over heart, head bowed. The king's critical eyes scanned him, then drifted to his daughter. "He is different," the king commented, his voice echoing in the ornate hall. "Yet I sense the bond is strong. You tread a path no Mezeran heir has walked before, child." Athela nodded. "I do so for both our peoples, and we have already proven the bond's resilience." A soft rumble of approval came from the king. He gestured grandly at the hall, and the festivities began. Even so, Ethan sensed an undercurrent of unease. Many of the older nobles cast wary glances at him, no doubt questioning the wisdom of this union. Athela was beloved, and tying her empathic gifts to a Terran might be seen as a reckless gamble. Still, the night's atmosphere was mostly cordial. Mezeran courtiers approached him with polite curiosity, offering toasts and asking about Earth's varied cultures. Some proposed trade deals, others inquired about Terran science. He did his best to represent humanity, mindful that his every gesture might reflect on Earth's reputation. Athela, meanwhile, drifted among her people like a radiant ember, ensuring none felt neglected. The empathic waves of the crowd oscillated with fascination, a dash of skepticism, and pockets of genuine warmth. Throughout, Ethan felt her presence in his mind, a guiding star that soothed his jitters. When the official feast concluded, Athela and Ethan slipped away to a quieter corner of the palace gardens. There, under vines of glowing petals, they found a peaceful moment to reflect on how far they'd come and how much further they had yet to go. The next weeks proved both invigorating and challenging. The Mezeran people had welcomed their princess's bond, albeit with cautious optimism. Athela introduced Ethan to the daily rhythms of her world, sunrise meditations that harmonized empathic energies, evening councils with local leaders, tours of ancient sites inscribed with the earliest empathic runes. Ethan, for his part, shared Terran cultural elements, playing old Earth songs on a battered guitar, explaining the concept of democracy, and recounting Earth's triumphs and failures. It was an exchange that broadened both sides. Yet not everyone embraced the new alliance. Whispers circulated of a resistance faction that quietly lamented polluting Mezer's empathic lineage with an outsider's presence. Their biggest test arrived at a diplomatic summit convened in the palace's amphitheater. Representatives from star systems that had previously scorned Earth came for direct negotiations. The meeting was set to formalize trade routes, technology exchanges, and resource-sharing agreements. Some delegates were enthusiastic, but others raised pointed concerns about humanity's still fresh membership. "Your species has waged countless wars among yourselves," declared a tall avian senator, her plumage bristling. "How can we trust that your newfound cooperation is not just a fleeting phase?" Ethan stepped onto the dais, conscious of hundreds of eyes. "We're here to learn," he said. "Yes, Earth's history is stained by conflict, but we've also shown resilience, creativity, and the capacity for rapid growth. The exchange of resonance stands as proof we're committed to forging deeper ties, literally bonding ourselves to another race." He paused, letting sincerity pulse through his voice. "Look at the sabotage attempt by Thrask. We overcame that, and Princess Athela." He turned to her, feeling a subtle pulse of encouragement from the bond. "She risked her own empathic safety to unite our species. If Mezeran can believe in us, I hope you'll consider doing the same." Athela's empathic aura flared warmly, echoing her agreement. Some delegates nodded, impressed, while others kept stoic expressions. Over the next hours, measured debates and skillful diplomacy whittled away reservations. High Magistrate Karth, present as an observer, noted how Earth's membership now brought fresh perspectives, that might revitalize a somewhat stagnant council. By the summit's end, several key pacts were drawn up. Despite lingering skepticism, the alliance advanced another step forward. As the diplomatic summit concluded, Athela and Ethan found themselves retreating to a secluded observatory at the palace's uppermost spire. A glass dome offered a panoramic view of the red-hued horizon. Twinned suns sank behind basalt cliffs, painting the sky in swirling oranges and purples that merged with Mizer's natural crimson tint. The bond between them had grown comfortable, like a well-worn path in a forest. Ethan had learned to parse Athela's empathic surges, moments of intense emotion that sometimes overtook her in the middle of negotiations. He discovered that focusing on the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat could help ground her. In turn, Athela learned to interpret Ethan's flashes of pride or frustration with the council's bureaucracy, channeling them into calm resolution. Sitting on a ledge, they watched the final rays dip below the horizon. Stars began to poke through the sky, shimmering in patterns unique to Mizer's vantage. Athela leaned against Ethan, her slender frame fitting neatly against his side. Her presence was so close, physically and empathically, that he hardly remembered a time when he wasn't tethered to her aura. "You know," she said softly, "there's a tradition here. After a bond is formed, the partners often embark on a pilgrimage across the Mezeran plains, visiting sites that mirror key epochs of our civilization. It's a journey meant to strengthen the bond's synergy." He smiled, intrigued. "A honeymoon Mezeran style?" She chuckled, the sound sending a ripple of warmth through their connection. "Yes, in a sense. But also a spiritual practice, experiencing the world together, forging unity and shared discovery." Ethan brushed a lock of her hair away, letting his fingertips graze the swirling black tattoo on her temple. "I'd like that," he said, "to see more of your home, away from the formalities of the palace." Their conversation meandered into gentle topics, future plans, the possibility of visiting Earth together, and whether they might eventually have children who'd inherit both Terran and Mezeran traits. The idea was both daunting and thrilling. As starlight intensified, they realized that, despite all the obstacles, their union was forging an entirely new chapter for two civilizations, one that might blossom into a legacy of shared hope. The next morning found them departing the palace on hoverbikes suited for the desert terrain. A small entourage of guards followed at a discreet distance, but Athela insisted they keep the escort minimal. They rode over crimson dunes, the wind whipping their hair and clothes. The horizon stretched endlessly, with only distant spires and rock formations occasionally breaking the monotony. Yet to Ethan, this alien desert was more beautiful than any place he'd ever known. They stopped at vantage points where carved monoliths recounted ancient Mezeran legends. Athela explained the stories, tales of unity forged in the face of cataclysm, of empathic breakthroughs that ended centuries of warfare. In each retelling, Ethan caught parallels to humanity's own struggles for peace, and with each passing sight, he felt their bond deepen, weaving shared purpose into their connection. On the final day, as they reached the summit of a sandstone cliff, they gazed down at a sprawling valley lit by twin suns. Athela removed her gloves and pressed her hand gently to Ethan's cheek. He felt her gratitude flow through the bond, mingled with a fierce joy. "How do you feel?" she asked, her red skin glowing in the morning light. He searched for words, but only honesty came forth. "Like my life is no longer my own, yet more complete than ever. Earth's part of the council thanks to you and in this bond, and you're tied to me for better or worse, but I wouldn't change a thing." She smiled, eyes moist. "I sense your sincerity, and I share it." They embraced on that cliff, letting the twin suns bathe them in warmth. For a moment, it was just them against the universe, a human and a Mezeran princess, bound by empathy, forging hope out of chaos. In time, they would return to palaces and council halls, to trade talks and treaties that shaped entire galaxies. But in that stolen instant, nothing mattered except the raw, undeniable truth they had discovered together. As the wind picked up and sent ribbons of red sand dancing around them, Athela leaned close, her lips brushing Ethan's ear. "Don't back out now, human," she teased, echoing the vow that had started it all. "You promised to bond before the council." He laughed softly, meeting her gaze. "And I always keep my promises." Hey listeners, things are heating up. Ethan and Princess Athela have just agreed to an empathic bond that could unite their species, or destroy them both. Do you think they made the right choice? Comment 1 if you're confident Ethan and Athela can handle it, or 2 if you think they're headed for disaster. Don't forget to let us know your opinion and where you're enjoying this story from. Stay tuned for what's next. It's going to be unforgettable.